I'm going to be mentioning a very important factor what truth is not. What truth is not, the first thing we discovered was truth is not anything that works, or the fact that something works doesn't qualify it to be truth. So truth is not what works, because it could work today and it will not work tomorrow. So truth is not what works. And second one is that truth is not our feeling. It's not what feels good. Third one that we went through yesterday is that truth is not relative. It's not relative. Truth is not relative. So today, I'm going to be talking about the fact that truth is not just what we perceive with our senses. Truth is not only what you can perceive with your five senses. Your five senses can perceive some things about truth that could be true, but that does not prove that all truth could be perceived by the five senses. So truth goes beyond the five senses. So truth cannot just be perceived by five senses. So for example, some people will say, I don't believe in God. I say, why? He said, who gave birth to God? Or where is God? I've never seen God before. So what that kind of person is saying is that he belongs to the school of thought that you can only believe as reality what you see, or what you can touch, or what you could use your five senses to appreciate. That if you cannot appreciate and acknowledge something with your five senses, that it doesn't exist. So that's a lazy man's solution. So that's a very cheap and a very artificial kind of understanding. That is very fake. It's not sound. It's not scientific. So because there are a lot of things out there that you cannot see. There are a lot of things there that you cannot use your five senses to perceive. In fact, your five senses are just too limited for the lot of God's creation. You know, we are not just on the earth. You need your five senses for a lot of things on earth, but even on the earth, there are a lot of things that are existing that we are actually using and we are interacting with, yet we cannot see or feel. So a lot of realities, a lot of things that are out there that we cannot use our five senses to anticipate or to appreciate. So, and there is a school of thought that believe in this. It's a philosophical school of thought. It's called empiricism or empirism. Empiricism, it says that, you know, what is real is what I can feel or what I can touch. I mean, what I can touch, what I can taste, what I can smell, what I can hear, or what I can see. So those five organs, those five sexual organs are what I can see, what I can hear, what I can smell, what I can taste, or what I can hear, or what I can touch. So those are the five empirical evidences, they call them. Yes, empirical evidences. So those are the things I could use empirical evidences to prove. But that is easy. That is the easy part of life. But there are a lot of other things that benefit us that we cannot use empirical evidence as proof. So like oxygen, empirical evidence is not enough. Your five senses are not enough for that. So it's a school of thought that says, since I cannot see God, it means there is no God. Or since I cannot see truth, it means truth is like relative. It means everybody has their truth. That's what I say. Truth is subjective. So it is subjectivity. So if you cannot say it, it means there is no truth. But you cannot use that because it's just like saying, okay, since I cannot see oxygen, then oxygen doesn't exist. Then you die. Then you die. So you cannot use your five senses to judge what is true and what is not true. Because sometimes you'll be able to use them to judge what is true, but sometimes you'll not be able, they are not enough for you to discover what is true. So if empirical evidences were enough, then, how do you discover things like justice? How do you see that? How do you touch that? You cannot touch it. But justice is needed for life, in life. How do you even love? Some people say they feel love, but you are talking about eros love or all that kind of, but what about just agape love, which is universal love? How do you express that? How do you touch that? How do you identify that? But you have to see some other things to believe that. So there are a lot of things. Even beauty, we see things that are beauty, but there are a lot of beauty, aspects of beauty that you cannot easily point out or feel or touch. So our senses are not enough to discover the truth. So number one, truth is not what works. Number two, truth is not what feels good, and truth is also not, it's not relative. It's not relative. It's not subjective, and then truth is not what we can sense with our five senses. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 15 and 16, Colossians 1, 15 and 16, it says, "For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen." Now, how are they clearly seen if they are invisible? They are invisible yet clearly seen. That is the place of faith right there. So if we say that we only depend on empirical evidences, that's why people deny faith. People who believe in this are normally atheists or humanists, or people who just believe in evolution. People who believe that there is no God. So we say, but we can feel God. And we can not just feel God, but see God. They say, why do you see God? You are losing your mind. But no, it says here, since creation and of the world is invisible. His invisible attributes are clearly seen. How are they seen? How can you see something that is invisible? See something that is invisible? How? You see by faith. So there is another dimension. It's another level of life. So there is a higher level of life than just relying on our five senses. There is a higher level of life than what your physical eyes can see. So this is what we are talking about here, that you can see God by your spirit mind, by your eye of faith, by your spiritual eye, the spirit eyes. Through the faith, and by faith, we see the attributes of God that are invisible in the physical. Just like, there is a different language for different world. If we are talking about intellectual world, if you are talking about physical world, we have the body. So the body is the language for the physical world. Our body is created, and the five senses in that body are given to us to be in touch and to interact with the physical world. But those are physical world. But what about intellectual world? So there must be another language for intellectual world. You cannot use your hand and feet to fix intellectual questions. So that's why we have another language for intellectual interactions. And so for intellectual world, for the mental world, you have another language. And that language instrument for you to interact intellectually is called mind. So the mind is given to us for us to have mental discussion and intellectual interaction on that level in the intellectual world. But what about spirit world? What about in the invisible world, this spirit world? What language do we have? What is the language of the spirit? Well, just like body is the language of the material world, and the mind, intellect, is the language of the mental world, so also the language of the spirit world, of the invisible world, is faith. So that's why we see God by faith. We see God's attribute by faith, even though we don't see him physically. The just, that's why it says the just shall live by faith. So the just lives by faith, not by what he sees. More so, the Bible tells us that the things that are visible are actually inferior to the things that are not visible. The Bible tells us that the things that are not visible are much more tangible than the things that are seen. So the fact that you don't see those things doesn't mean that they do not exist. But they exist, but they don't just exist. They are actually much more, tangible to a spirit man or a spiritual person than the things that are visible. So, and it says that the things that are visible, therefore, because they are inferior to the invisible things, therefore the things that are visible are temporal. But the things that are not visible are eternal, because they are so superior that they are not just more tangible, but they are everlasting, because they are in the spirit realm. So they are much more powerful, much more real than the physical things that we say. That, what conclusion do we come to as a result of that? The only logical conclusion from that is that the physical world that we are seeing right now is temporary, because everything visible, everything physical is temporal. It means the old world that we are now running after, fighting for, embracing, and ready to give our lives for is actually temporal. The earth is temporal. Life on earth is temporal. So no matter how good life you have or you dream of having, it is artificial to the real life that is to come. So the only life that is going to be eternal is the life that we don't yet see, is the invisible world that we are not seeing, the eternal world that we are not yet seeing. The spirit realm, the heavenly world, is much more real. And so the key to live eternally, therefore, is to exercise your faith, to be able to see the invisible world, and then to live from the invisible world to the visible. So when the Bible says that the just shall live by faith, that means you shall live by the invisible. That you really live in this kingdom when you live not by the things that are already present near you or in your life. It is only when you live by those things that you cannot see, that are not yet visible, that you really indeed live. For example, if I am Sunday Adelaja, Pastor Sunday Adelaja, and I have built the Embassy of God Church to be the biggest church in Europe, and then I'm living off of that and say, look at it, I have a big church here, or a small church, it doesn't matter, but I have my church here, right? And I'm successful, and I'm living off of that. The truth is, I'm actually dead. Because the earth is moving around the sun. So if you are living by what is visible today, you are too late. Because that is already past, in the past tense. That is already yesterday. Anything that you are seeing right now is already too late. It's already gone. Because time doesn't wait for anybody. So for you to catch up with time, you must live in the invisible. You must live in the future. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Now, we need to spread this word, and we need to do it together. For that to happen, we need your help. Just 5 little steps that you could help us to spread the word. Number one thing we need you to do is to like the videos. Please go like this video right now. Number 2, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Number 3, we need you to press and click on that notification bell. You see the bell? Go press on it. And number 4, we need you to go comment. Write your comment, good or bad. Just write what you feel. Number 5, share on every platform. Share on Instagram, share on Facebook. Just share and spread the word. Thank you so much. All right, blessings.